The University of California, Riverside presents Blue, Gold, and Black, the podcast that's dedicated to amplifying Black voices at UCR. I'm Dominique Beale from UCR's Community Engagement and Outreach Unit. In each episode, we'll be talking to UCR students, campus leaders, and community partners to explore the intersection of being Black and being a Highlander at UCR. And I can't wait for you to meet today's guest. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Blue, Gold, and Black podcast, where we're amplifying Black voices at UCR. My name is Dominique Beale. I am your host. Today, we have a special guest coming to us from the School of Engineering, Mr. Desmond Harvey. He's one of our academic advisors at the School of Engineering. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about his background and some of the things that influenced him throughout his life to pursue higher education, specifically helping our students, particularly our Black students within STEM, within engineering, persevere and find success. Mr. Harvey, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm all right. Good afternoon. How are you doing, Dominique?
I've been doing okay. Super happy to have you here. But yeah, if you can really quickly, just to kind of get planted here at UCR, can you just kind of expand a little bit on exactly what it is you do and how you service the school, the students at the School of Engineering?
Absolutely. So I am an advisor in the Marlan and Rosemary Bourns College of Engineering. I'm an academic advisor working with chemical and environmental engineering students in the college. Got a little over 350 students that I work with regularly within the chemical and environmental engineering department. But I'm also a student org advisor to the local chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers. And so I've been advising that student organization now for about 2 years.
Nice. Very cool. And we'll get into it a little bit, but just give us a quick snapshot of what the NESBIT is. Just a quick snapshot.
NESBIT is the National Society of Black Engineers. It's one of the largest student organizations in the country. We have a growing chapter at UCR. The mission of the organization deals with academic excellence, professional development, training them to become contributors in the engineering workforce. So they've been doing a lot lately.
Okay, dope, real dope. I'll make sure we touch on that a little bit more later.
Let me see if I got the mission right while I'm thinking about it. So the mission of the organization is to increase the number of Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. I still got
it. There we go. All off the top of the dome. I respect it.
I had to see if I remember. Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, for sure. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
I grew up in Alabama, but I was only there 6 months. So I'm an Army brat. So both of my parents retired Army. So they gave me the opportunity to move all around the country. And even graduate high school in Germany.
Wow.
At an American high school over there, yeah. So I've been doing that every 2 to 3 years. We moved to a different location. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so talk to us a little bit about that experience. That's pretty unique. Was it complicated for you as a child? Was it hard for you to keep friends? Did you go through any struggles, or was it a really positive experience? I imagine you got to meet a ton of different types of people, so I'm sure that could have been really nurturing as well.
For the most part, it was fun. I remember being able to brag about people that I knew in different states on the East Coast and the West Coast and outside of Detroit. I remember being aggravated about it the first time in high school. Because I was trying to graduate with my peers, and we found out after my second year in high school that I was going to graduate high school in Germany. And so moved out to Western Germany to finish out my junior and senior year. So
nice.
But it was pretty cool, though. Met a lot of different people, a lot of different experiences. I don't regret it one bit. It was an awesome experience for me.
Beautiful. And so can you kind of tell us, what your folks were like? What was it kind of like inside the Harvey house in terms of how they raised you, what principles they wanted to instill in you?
Discipline. I think that probably the number one thing that I got from having two military parents is discipline, and it's reflected not only in my daily routine, but even in the work that I do with the students and setting those high expectations
Yes, sir.
for the students, and making sure that everything is done in a timely manner and things like that. That's important to me.
Nice. And so talk to me a little bit about like, what was it like for you growing up specifically as a Black child, right, within the military, moving around as a Black child all across the country? And then ultimately, what was it like, being a Black child in the military in Germany, right? I could imagine there were some pretty unique experiences.
So the military is pretty diverse, and so I never had the case where I was underrepresented, if you will, in the classroom at any point in time, from elementary school even to high school for the first 2 years out in Bakersfield,
Right.
and even in Germany. I had a pretty diverse workforce. I graduated with a class of only 32 people at an American high school in Germany that was there for all the Army brats, is what we're called. And so, I was, so it was pretty diverse. They did a good job of getting some of the best teachers and taking care of them for students, for teachers that work in the military education system. And so, luckily, looking back, I was well prepared inside and outside the classroom to be competitive for college and scholarships and things like that. So I was lucky in that regard.
Nice. And so, the background that you do have in engineering, was that something that you've always felt like you have? Was there something that maybe being in the military that kind of influenced your desire to be an engineer, or where did those interests start to come from?
I fell into engineering. I thought I was going to do math or business because math was my strong suit, good with numbers to this day. And so I thought I was going to do something where it wasn't as much science, but more so on the math side. I did chemistry undergrad, and so I still had my numbers and calculations. So that helped out big time. And then I did engineering in grad school. And it was by chance when I realized that I didn't want to do chemistry for a grad degree that I started doing research where I realized that not only did I like math and science, but I also like working with people.
Right.
And I didn't want to have a career where I'm pretty much relegated to a lab all day.
Right.
So I did some research and I ran into industrial engineering. Particularly one of the concentrations you can do is human factors or ergonomics, and designing things with people in mind, from a physical standpoint, from a cognitive standpoint. And so that piqued my interest. Luckily, I was able to switch over. And so I ended up doing industrial engineering for grad school. And that experience informs me to this day with working with current engineering students. Can kind of share some experiences as far as the classes that we take in, the rigor that it requires, the time and the effort needed to complete that degree successfully, undergrad or grad. And so it was a good experience, man.
Okay, dope. And were you a part of like any particular clubs? Obviously, you did 2 years in Bakersfield for high school, 2 years in Germany. Were you a part of any clubs during your time in high school or any extracurriculars? Were you able to participate in things like that?
I've always been involved in student government or student council. So I remember being part of student council in high school. I was senior class, vice president, president of the National Honor Society in high school when I was a regional officer for an organization called Future Business Leaders of America.
Okay.
And so I was heavily involved in high school here in California and also in Germany before I graduated.
Nice. So when you're graduating Germany, talk to us about, the decision-making process on the university that you wanted to go to and ultimately where you landed for undergrad.
For undergrad, I was able to get a scholarship to get a full ride at an HBCU called Langston University in Langston, Oklahoma. So it's the westernmost HBCU in the country, housed right in the middle of Oklahoma.
Nice.
At that time, I couldn't point to Oklahoma on the map, to be honest. Didn't know where it was, but it was a small school that was going to pay for everything that I heard about, and it was connected. In hindsight, come to find out, it was connected to my fraternity. Was the organization that helped raise the funds in Germany to get me to Oklahoma. So yeah, ended up at Langston. I thought I was going to Michigan State, case closed, but I was going to have to take some loans out. And I think about 2 weeks before graduation, Langston said, "We'll cover everything. Come out and learn." So that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, no, and so obviously you said you were majoring in chemistry, but just kind of talk to us a little bit about your HBCU experience, like from the academic to the social, all of the different realms that, you can interact with within a university campus. What was it like for you, and how did it influence you in the work that you do now coming out of an HBCU?
As I said earlier, a lot of my experiences is with diverse students, and we had a mix a little bit of everybody in my schools growing up. But that was my first experience in a 90% Black environment, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. As you know, we're not a monolith, and so you had the super nerds, the more outgoing people, the more introverted people. You had people interested from debate to athletics, and to be in that environment and to be supported as you learn more about yourself as a young adult, get involved with activities and clubs and have experiences with other Black people in an environment, particularly an academic environment, where you can thrive and ask questions, especially for students that are studying the sciences, but all across the board. To have that environment where you're comfortable with asking questions and being yourself, and also kind of stepping out of your comfort zone in an environment that's still comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a dope experience. I'm very, very happy I had that experience at HBCU. Happy that I went to OU afterwards, and there was a lot of valuable experiences for me being at a PWI, just as it was being in the HBCU.
Okay, nice. And so, talk to me a little bit about like that support factor, and specifically if you had any mentors specifically throughout undergrad and even grad school, I would say. Because obviously that's such a important key, especially for Black students, right? Is being able to connect with an elder, even if that elder is only 2 or 3 years older, like it can kind of manifest itself in different ways. So talk to me about your experience with mentorship throughout your time at the HBCU.
I had mentors on the faculty, staff, and within administration. So I was in an environment where I knew the president, worked with the chair of the department, was my faculty member, was involved working in student affairs, and so worked with the dean of students, and all of them contributed big time to my growth, was my support. I think the biggest role of my mentors looking back was to be able to tell me about myself when I needed to hear about myself. And so sometimes you think everything is going well or there's no other options depending on what the situation is. But I had those people and still do have those people in my corner that I can reach out to vent, to talk about my experiences. Because more times than not, I'm not the first and not the last person to go through it. And so to be able to, for other people older than me to say they can relate, they know what's going on, this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. Played a big role, undergrad, grad, and also as a professional. You always need somebody to have that role with you.
Yeah, no doubt. And so, like, from your position as a student, how did you, was seeking mentorship something that you were actively involved in, or did it kind of happen where these people kind of just came to you at that, it seems like at that right moment in your life? Or like, what was your process for finding mentorship? Because I think a lot of students struggle with that, to be quite honest.
I agree. And one thing that we're trying to do with what happened with me is that it has to be a part of the culture. And so that wasn't me coming in and saying, as a freshman, hey, I need a mentor. Can you be my mentor? It was part of the culture where upperclassmen with faculty would say, come here, do this. This is what you need to do. And so from faculty saying, hey, you need to go present research at that conference. That probably would have been my first thing to do on a Saturday in October, but it turned out to be one of the best experiences that I was able to put on my resume.
Right.
I need people to say, get involved in this, run for this, fill out this application, do not do this. And so it was a part of the culture. And it's something that I want to cultivate more within NESBIT. The students are currently working on a freshman mentoring program because I want to, again, set that culture where you're coming in first year to say, hey, I'm going to connect with you and at least let you know from a baseline, things you should know, things you should do, things you should not do. So you can get through this experience as smoothly as possible and get your engineering degree. So I think it was a culture that was set. And I think that culture is big. And so it doesn't have to be formal all the time with your formal mentor, things that we're doing with the freshman program. That helps. But just establishing that culture that you're going to look out for each other.
Yeah.
And we all came in confused at one point and needed a hand and kind of a point in the right direction. And so you got to pass that back. And that's a good lesson not only for students, but also as you get into your community. You can't just think about yourself. You have to think about others and give back because other folks helped you out to get you where you're at. And so you make sure that you return a favor and give back. So it's just a good life lesson. And hopefully there's a culture in place to help facilitate that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think we're going to touch on that a little bit more once we kind of get into your roles here at UCR. But I kind of still want to just kind of lead us into how you found yourself here. So now you're pursuing graduate school, and you kind of gave us a little bit of a breakdown of specifically what you studied at the graduate school level. Talk to us about where that kind of led you. What was your reasoning for wanting to go to graduate school? And then where did that land you professionally after you completed it prior to coming to UCR?
So, again, one of the experience that I got from having a mentor was telling me from my freshman year, you need to be considering going to grad school. And so that was an expectation, to be honest, from my first year. We started practicing the GRE my first year. And so, again, it was that structure and that mentorship that gave me the opportunity to take it 3 times, starting my freshman year and improve the score year after year after year. Was doing that. So I knew I was going to grad school. And so it was just a matter of keeping that GPA up and getting the experiences so that I could get a fellowship, not only get into grad school, but get some money for it. And so I ended up doing industrial engineering. That worked out well. Did research with human factors and ergonomics. I started working with student programs at the University of Oklahoma in their engineering college. They had a multicultural engineering program that I worked closely with, and I helped start their very first summer bridge program. I think that was back in 2007 as a grad student. I helped coordinate that with another grad school student and with the engineering staff. And so when I was doing that was an awesome experience. After I got my master's, I decided to go work for a couple of years as a safety engineer for Samsung out in Austin. And even though things were going well, I was a safety engineer, so I was using the chemistry and the engineering background, and so that was working out perfectly. But I missed working with the students. I missed the impact that I was able to make with students, and thought that had I had an opportunity to do that for a living, something that I was good at, that I was interested in, would be icing on top of the cake. And so after about 2 years in engineering, I decided to make the jump and switch it up and found a position back at my alma mater, Langston, working with students, kind of helping them get the same experiences that I got as an undergraduate there. Ended up at Oklahoma State working for their multicultural engineering program out in Stillwater, bringing in students from underrepresented populations, mentoring them, organizing programs for them, like the Summer Bridge program and living learning communities, things like that. And so did that for coming up on 10 years between Langston and Oklahoma State. Before I realized that I wanted a change in environment. I had been to Oklahoma for a long time, between work and school. My parents had retired out this way out in Apple Valley. And so I thought it would be dope to change things up and and look into positions in California.
Okay.
Learned about Riverside, learned they had an engineering college that was in the area, and applied, and luckily everything worked out. So I was able to officially move to California about 4 years ago.
Okay, dope. So I'm happy we were kind of able to kind of just paint that picture really quick, right? So we can let students understand that you have experience in what you're advising them into. But aside from the material knowledge, right, specifically the engineering and what it takes for that, we know there's a different way to engage with different types of students, particularly Black students. And I think we bring a lot of that context in with your story into kind of how you carry out your position. So really quickly, talk to us about the Bourns College of Engineering as a whole, right? Why should students, and especially Black students that are interested in engineering, be considering Bourns College specifically?
It's a great learning environment. The first thing that came to mind as you were asking that question was research. And so one thing that I value looking at my experiences in undergrad is that I was able to do research early. I was able to connect with a faculty member and was able to get into a lab and to do internships after my first year. And the college does a particularly a good job, the Bourns College does a good job of connecting students to research. My students come in and talk all the time about whose lab they're working in.
Nice.
And the work that they're doing and how it has afforded them opportunities that range from internships to full-time opportunities, to admission to some competitive graduate programs in chemical and environmental engineering. And so that connection to faculty and to research that enhances that academic experience as early as possible goes a long way. The NESBIT students have been talking a lot lately about getting more involved in research and design teams. So that's going to get them working with more faculty members across the different departments that we have in the engineering college. And so that opportunity to do that is very valuable. And a lot of engineering programs don't necessarily afford that. You may have to wait until your junior year to get involved once they feel that you've taken enough courses to do it. But there's value to getting that in-person active experience as opposed to reading lectures and reading textbooks. So it goes a long way. And that opportunity to do that is valuable. And that's something that I always say our college does a good job with.
Yeah, and I think another really great thing to highlight that fits right into that context of research is resources, right?
Yeah.
Because in order to do research, you have to have the resources. And in order to get those resources, right, you need to be interacting with professors and advisors that can put you in those rooms or put you in those labs or in those situations where you're getting real practical and applicable knowledge to go along with what you're learning in the lecture series, right?
Exactly.
And I think of our career center as well, right? So being engaged in research and utilizing other resources on campus, like our career center, right, really puts students in a super prime position to have, like you said, full-time careers within their field, maybe right as they graduate, if not even sooner.
Yep.
In conjunction with all of that, talking about your experience, right, how you went from undergrad to master's. Talk to our potential engineering students about the special opportunities we have to combine their bachelor's and their master's, because when we talk about resources, right, and being able to take advantage of opportunities, I think that's absolutely huge.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about the accelerated track BSMS program. So in
Yes,
5
sir.
years, a normal bachelor's degree takes you about 4 years to get. But we have an accelerated track where you can get your bachelor's and your master's in 5 years. A master's normally takes 2 years. So normal timetable is about 6 years for a bachelor's and master's. And we have a program where we cut off a year where you can get both in 5 years. And so usually around after the third year, students start inquiring about that. They do have GPA requirements that you have to meet as far as your GPA and your technical GPA. But if you meet that, then we pretty much put you on the accelerated track to essentially start taking some of the graduate courses starting your fourth year. And so that's how you're able to get it done so soon. But yeah, you can't beat that with a stick, especially if you are already doing research and connected to faculty. Again, a lot of our students are involved with research and working with faculty. And so in order the opportunity to take advantage of that and continue your research and add on an extra year and come out with another degree, you can't beat that.
And talk to us about the logistics. Is that master's coming? Is that fifth year coming at an additional cost to students, or is it going to? Yep. So, just want students to be clear. But walking away with your bachelor's and your master's degree in 5 years, right, while you're immersed in research and all of these career opportunities, I mean, there's really no better way to kind of set your path, set your career goal and your trajectory from there. I want to kind of focus in now a little bit more specifically about your role as an academic advisor, and specifically what it means to you to service our students. And then after that, I'm going to ask you about your academic advising technique and how it relates specifically to Black students. But what are some of the things that you bring into your role and how you make sure you service students? I already know that discipline is one of your core principles, but how else do we make sure that students are nurtured throughout this experience, right? Because it is academics, but a lot of times it's a lot more going on with the student when they're coming into the academic advising office and are in need. So can you talk to us about some of your experiences and how you approach all of that?
First thing that you must do, in my opinion, is make yourself available. And so I do office hours every day. We call it drop-in advising, but it's pretty much office hours where students can come in and see me when I'm available and ask any questions. I kind of stagger my availability between mornings and afternoons throughout the week. So regardless of your course schedule or your work schedule or what have you, you should be able to find time to come see me. I'm pretty responsive on emails. And so they'll reach out to me. You can email from your phone. This is what's going on. And try to get back to students. I usually dedicate a block of my mornings just to fire off on emails. And if I'm not in meetings or anything, should be able to check that throughout the day just in case students need me. But it's also equipping them to help themselves and to be accountable and to access the information. And so I'm going to help you, and I'm going to help you facilitate this process to get your degree. But I'm not going to class for you. I'm not studying for you. I'm not doing any of those things. And so setting those expectations and making sure that they're aware of the resources that I want them to take advantage of in order to keep those grades up and to build that resume. That's important. So I think it's a combination of being there for them, but also setting those high expectations. You know, I send out a weekly email of news and announcements. I expect you to read it. Do not email me something that's answered in an email that I sent to you yesterday. And so taking advantage of the resources and the information that we're giving them is important too. but also still being there, not only for the standard questions, but if something is going on, I don't need to know all your business, but if it's impacting your academics, then we need to talk about it without me being all in your business, but to make sure we're doing what we need to do in order to make sure that you continue to be a student here and that you're putting your best foot forward, or the best foot you can possibly put at that moment forward, so that you can keep those grades up, and that you are aware of all your options given the situation that you have at any particular time to continue your studies.
Right. No, yeah, I think that's very critical. And so when we think about, that philosophy you have with advising your students, how do you change your approach, or maybe not change your approach, but how do you kind of adapt your approach to specifically Black students, right? Because we know all students face struggles, but Black students, they face unique struggles due to whatever circumstance. How does your approach change when you're servicing our Black students that come across your office?
I don't know if it changes, but the NESBIT students know that I'm available, and I'm their advocate. And so while I advocate for them, like if I hear something is going on that doesn't sound right, know that I'm going to address it with whoever it needs to be addressed with, while at the same time that includes them if they're doing things that's not in their best interest or impacting them academically or otherwise, that I'm going to tell them about themselves at the same time. That's important. But always being that resource, that person to follow up with, that person to check in with, just to know what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what adjustments I had to make for any given reason in a class or with work or with NESBIT. That's important too. And so I think it's just to have that advising opportunity to be available for them. It might be talking finances and scholarships, and not necessarily their academic plan to get their degree.
Sure.
That goes a long way too. And able to say, I don't know that answer, but I know who can give you that answer over in financial aid, or over in the dean's office or what have you. So I think just continuing having that presence is incredibly important, especially given that they're underrepresented. Not only in the college, but at the university overall. There are a lot of us on campus, but at the same time, there's not a lot of us on campus when you look at the percentages, if that makes sense. And so you want to make sure you have that presence and that support, and to be able to talk about your experiences. I think that goes a long way with being in college. And so, you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I think that's also a great segue. So when we talk about, making sure that we're focused on representation, especially when it comes to the student population, it's all about intentionality, right? And I know the Bourns College is pretty determined about that intentionality. Can you talk about some of the things that they're doing on a structural level at the college to address that concern that we have about Black student representation at the college?
So the students in the spring did an outstanding job of reaching out to the administration, not only at the NESBIT students, but also collectively with other Black students at the university, with talking with administrators about their experiences, things that were going well, especially with the university being closed, but also given the social climate, talking about their experiences in the college, inside the classroom, outside the classroom, things like that. And so even though we have things that are working, there were things that we didn't know about that we want to pay attention to. And so in response, the college has been paying closer attention to what is going on, asking what is needed. The college recently established an endowment fund for the students that's raised about over $30,000
Wow.
that made the students the first student group at UCR to establish an endowment fund as a student org.
Wow.
And so the college helped facilitate that undertaking, and that's big. And that will help support some of the professional development initiatives that we'll be doing with the students,
Right.
and kind of help support them along the way. And also giving me the flexibility, since I've been working with them for the past 2 years, and we've been seeing progress to make adjustments so I can support them more. And so my supervisors have been awesome. My coworkers have been awesome in student affairs,
Right.
to give me the flexibility and the support so that I can do more work with the students. And because the college does want to increase the number of Black students in the college.
Right.
We want to increase the academic performance and the retention. Their GPAs for the chapter and their retention rate is not bad at all, but it can always be better. And
Better,
so we
yeah.
want to just continue to improve. One of the terms we use in engineering is continuous improvement. And so looking at other opportunities to take it to the next level. And so
Yeah.
that's what the college is supporting right now, and that's big.
Yeah, and for students that do come to UCR, right? We obviously touched on it a little bit at the beginning. NESBIT being such a powerful student organization across the country. But why is it important for Black students to get involved in these types of organizations? Maybe it's not NESBIT everywhere, right? But why is it important for Black students to find communities within the field of engineering that they can use to amplify their advocacy for themselves and for their peers?
The answer was in the question. Establishing community is important. Being connected with your peers that have similar interests, similar work ethic, similar grind is important, and it goes a long way. And so whether it is NESBIT or ASP, even along your major, connecting with the professional organization for your discipline, so you're connected with other students. Establishing that community goes a long way. And as we said earlier, you're not the only one. There's not as many of us on campus. Right. You know, all the percentages, regardless of what you're looking at, as far as Black students, you're kind of looking at below 10%, below 5% in some cases, as far as the population. And so there is a high chance that in many of your classes, you may be the only Black student.
Right.
And so how do you navigate those spaces, but also have an avenue to vent and to connect with, to share experiences? And that's not only just your peers or older students, that's alumni that can come in and talk about their experiences when they were here and what they did with that. And that goes a long way with current students. So establishing that community is key, because you're not the first, you're not the last to have some of the experiences and thoughts that you're going to have going through college. And so instead of recreating the wheel, if you will, to be able to get some sound advice on how to navigate it, and also just a space to just relax, and not just talk about your major and your career and your discipline and your resume all the time, but just to connect with other people that look like you and have some of the same things that you all enjoy, from music to movies to hanging out. That goes a long way too, and some of the best memories that you'll have in college all together. Of course, we rightfully focus on academics. That's why you're here. But there's an experience that you have in college, and some of your best times aren't in the classroom. Some of your best laughs, some of your best memories may not necessarily be in a lecture hall or a lab. It's with hanging out with your friends and traveling and representing the university at conferences and other events in the state and across the country. Those experiences are important, and they mainly happen by being a part of a community bigger than you.
Yeah, and and I'm glad that you kind of just expanded on that, because like you said, percentage wise, right, the numbers are what they are. But when we kind of move past, right, numbers only kind of tell partially a partial part of the story. So when we move past those numbers, right, there is community here, and it's engaged and it's connected from ASP to NESBIT to the Black Faculty and Staff Association, right? We have a lot of these organizations and coalitions around campus to further connect the Black community here on campus, right? And hopefully this is what this platform can do in terms of helping people get connected and engaged, because it is all about tapping into resources, right? And even as an engineering student, some of your best resources might come outside of the school of engineering. And that's applicable for any student in any college in any major, right? So where can we get tapped in? Where can we find these folks? I think that's so critical. To make sure that students are aware of and they have access to that at a university like UCR. So, you know, we're coming up on the end. I just want to ask you this final question, and it's just kind of keeping in that spirit of optimism, right, that our people have to look forward for future generations. So when you kind of look at the landscape now, what is one of the things that you're most excited for when it comes to future generations of Black scholars coming through UCR?
They're vocal. They speak up. And I think that's going to get the current group a long way. As I mentioned earlier, they did an outstanding job, in my opinion, and in my experience as a former student leader, with engaging with the faculty and with the administration as far as their experiences and what needs to happen, and speaking out about it. And that is more than half the battle, if you ask me. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so to be able to address that head on and to own their college experience more and more and speak to that, I think it will help transform a lot around here. And what I do as an advisor and how I do it as an advisor, I think it has a lot of ramifications for the college and for the university overall. So that's the best thing that I'm hopeful for, and that I hope prospective students and high school students keep in mind as they matriculate in. Of course, we're going to do our job to make sure that you are connected and that you know what's going on and you have that community. But it's also incumbent upon you to speak up about your experiences and what's going on and what's not going on and what could be better to help enhance that experience, because that's what it's all about. And that is a skill that will take you a long way as you go into the workforce and you're dealing with other people from different backgrounds and experiences, some more limited than others, and how you begin to navigate those spaces. And not being scary, if you will, but being able to address that head on goes a long way, and it's something that money can't buy, if you ask me.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you so much for that. So, Desmond, I'm super happy to have you on the show.
Appreciate that, man.
We're super happy. Yeah, no doubt. We're super happy to amplify your voice on Blue, Gold, and Black. And, you know, hopefully we can have you on in the future, because I think there's a lot more we can do to kind of continue this conversation, especially when we look at Black student representation within engineering, right? We can get deeper into exactly what that means and what we're trying to do to increase that representation. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this platform.
Yes, sir. No doubt. All right, y'all. We'll catch you on the next episode of Blue, Gold, and Black. Catch y'all later. Thank you for joining us on Blue, Gold, and Black. This program is produced by the Community Engagement and Outreach Unit of Undergraduate Admissions at the University of California, Riverside. Learn more about attending UCR by visiting admissions.ucr.edu, and be sure to check out the description for other useful links and resources. Help support this podcast by liking, subscribing, and sharing. And be sure to check out our podcast videos on YouTube. Catch you guys later.